everyone's looking for the young guy. They're looking for McVay. I think take a shot out. Todd Bowles, get him a second shot at head coach and see if he can do it.
I don't think they will. If they don't have Anthony Davis, I'm saying it right now. If Anthony Davis is out for the playoffs, they don't make it out of the first round.
It's crazy. And our kids will know how great Tom Brady is because he's going to be playing.
Yes, it is 15.0%.
That's what the Yankees brought Garrett Cole to do.
He was a 6th-round pick. This is a fairy tale story that's being written in front of our eyes.
People like to call them their JV team, and they just stole one of their better players.
They didn't struggle against the Padres. The Padres didn't really put up a fight in most of the games.
Jerry Jones, hope you're listening.
Hi, I'm Landon Bowe, and you're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NFL Opinions of the Week. It finally happened. The man that predicted it, Austin, with Rodgers going to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, this is something that I really did think was going to happen. I know that you kind of didn't think it was going to happen, or that Rodgers was either going to retire or wait till whatever, but it's been done. There was a couple other places where I thought Rodgers may end up, but the Pittsburgh prediction was correct, and I'm interested to see how this is going to go. My first question always goes to, how does Mike Tomlin manage Rodgers as a personality, off the field stuff, or maybe in the locker room stuff, but not on the field?
I don't think you can manage it. I think Rodgers is going to do whatever, and I don't think he's going to be open to what Tomlin wants. I think you're going to see Rodgers do kind of whatever he wants.
Do you think Tomlin allows that?
I think Tomlin agreed to let that happen with the signing, because I don't see how you go into Rodgers now and assume that he's going to follow the rules. He's not going to be outspoken. He's not going to be an off the field personality with what he does on the McAfee show and just other comments about what else is going on, medicine, like he was with the Jets. So I think Tomlin agreed, okay, I'm just going to let him do this thing for a year as they just kind of have another quarterback in that quarterback carousel.
Yeah. Do you think the Steelers were banking on Rodgers only? Because it seemed like they were on his tail for a large part of the offseason.
Yeah, it really did. And that's kind of why I was surprised they waited this long, but he kind of had him in that chokehold, because who else were they going to go to? They didn't really do anything in the draft. They did draft Will Howard, but there's nothing really there. So, yeah, it was Rodgers or bust, and I think that's a difficult scenario to put yourself in 2025 and just the form he is in.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I do wonder how he's going to mesh with DK Metcalf. We've seen Rodgers with a lot of wide receiver personalities, and DK's another one. Do you think that Rodgers had any influence over the Pickens trade, or is that something that you think they decided on their own? Because I feel like if you were talking to Rodgers for this long, you would bring up your offense and kind of what he would be expected to utilize. And do you think Rodgers had any problem with or any pushback against the Pickens trade, or do you think that was something he supported?
I think Rodgers didn't have an effect on it. I think it was the Steelers organization making a decision. Maybe it was with Rodgers and kind of having that entire locker room of Rodgers, Pickens, and Metcalf. That was something Tomlin's like, I can't deal with this, so we'll clear room for Rodgers. And it just, I think they thought they got a good deal with Dallas and they were ready to move on with Pickens, especially because I'm not sure if Pickens was willing to be not willing to be the number one in Pittsburgh. In Dallas, it's a change of scenery, which changes the expectations. So that's kind of my view of it, of Rodgers having no effect on it, the Steelers making that decision on their own.
Okay, so do you think that they make any other moves for Rodgers? Like, I saw a lot of people joking about Alan Lazard, And Lazard wasn't even that bad this past season. But do you think they make any other Packer-esque moves? Does that make any sense to kind of help Rodgers get more familiar with the offense, or do you think that they're going to leave as is?
I do think, I wonder about Alan Lazard. I know it's a joke, but also I do think there's some credit to it because what role would George Pickens be filling? I think George Pickens would be more of a secondary wide receiver, and I think Alan Lazard can fill that role. Because I don't think they view George Pickens as a number one that's the number two, because DK Metcalf fills that role. I think Lazard provide a different change of pace. But maybe they go and sign an Amari Cooper, because I do think they need a different wide receiver for it to be a passing offense, which I think has to be. That's a question I have is, what is this offense's goal or offense's strategy in the scheme?
Yeah, I also could see Keenan Allen. He's still a free agent as we're recording right now. And also Gabe Davis is also a free agent, I believe, still. So there's a good bit of wide receiver talent that's still available. That I think all three of those guys will be signed at some point. It's just where. Now, kind of predicting it. A lot of people are joking. I saw one. Don't. If you're not with us when we're 9-8, don't be with us when we're 9-8. And I thought that was pretty funny. But do you think they have any chance of really contending in a really tough AFC North this season? Or do you think that they are more of a 500 team that may make the playoffs but will lose in the first round?
This one is, I think they're more of a 500 team, and I think they struggle to get 500 because with all the other quarterbacks, there was a clear direction with the offense. And to me, I think there's going to be a lot of frustration with this offense. What Arthur Smith wants versus what Rodgers wants. I believe Rodgers is not going to be willing to run the ball and kind of humble himself to go, okay, I'll make passes when I need to. Because if you look at the Jets situation, they struggled on the offensive line, but Pittsburgh isn't really that much better. Jets had two phenomenal running backs. You had Zero, and then of course you had Breece Hall. I don't remember the rookie. I know Breece Hall struggled, but I like that two-man punch for the Jets, and they didn't really utilize that. You saw the Jets having Rodgers, and I think Rodgers was a huge influence on that, was throwing the ball 40 times a game. And he's just not that guy anymore, and I don't think Rodgers is willing to accept that. So to me, it's going to be a lot of frustration because Rodgers is going to be frustrated with the play call, and I think he's going to win out. So that's why I think it not being a tight run ship, especially on the offensive side, where I think he can be a capable quarterback, but I don't think he's willing to do that.
I mean, we'll see. Rodgers has a lot of experience in the NFL, and he's experienced winning a title. Now, he was much younger when that happened, and Mike Tomlin was also in that Super Bowl. He was the coach on the other side, so they do have some history. And I could see this really working out, and I could see this absolutely blowing up in the face of the Steelers. I think everything's on the table. If there was going to be a coach in the league currently to make Rodgers kind of take a step back and change his ways, at least slightly, I do think it would be Mike Tomlin. So I give it a slight possibility that happens because Mike Tomlin is an abrasive personality himself, but he has the credit and the silverware to back it up. So
yeah, that's a great point with Tomlin. And I kind of have a question for you of what is this working out?
I'd say if you win 12 games, because you got to think, they won how many games last year? Was it 10 or 11? 11, 10.
I'm pulling that up right now. Okay, so 12. Do you see postseason success or?
I could see postseason success because you have a good defense. I like how their defense is at the moment. You have a rookie running back alongside Jaylen Warren. Your O-line's not terrible. And if you pick up a Keenan Allen and trade for Alan Lazard, for example, okay, well now you have Pat Freiermuth at the tight end spot, and you have a good wide receiver 3, a good wide receiver 2, and a good wide receiver 1. So you have the talent. It's just whether or not Aaron Rodgers is going to not just perform, but also be bought into the system that the Steelers are willing to run.
Yeah, so the past 2 years have been 10-7. So last year was 10-7. The 2 years prior to that, 9-8, 9-7, because there wasn't they hadn't added that extra game yet. The last time they got 12 wins was was the 2020 season when Roethlisberger was the leading passer and James Conner was the leading rusher and Deontay Johnson was the leading receiver.
Yeah, but you got to think a little bit like 12-5 is different than 12-4, right? So I think 12 wins is the goal, and I think that is attainable if everyone is bought into the system. And I could see them having regular or postseason success because they would be battle tested because of their division. They have a good defense. They have a star on defense still, and their offense would be solid after a couple free agency moves still. So it's going to be whether or not Rodgers is bought in or if Tomlin can rein him in to make sure that this actually works out. But I also could see them winning 5 or 6 games just because your offense is still extremely important, even if your defense is really good. And the Jets have proven that over the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, that's a great point. And just kind of the volatility that you have with Rodgers and the interceptions. Because he can make still, I think, good plays, just that level. I don't think he has anymore without some help from the running game. So I think 12 wins a lot. I could see them. I think the best case scenario, most likely scenario, if it goes well with Rodgers, is what they had last year, is 10-7, 10 wins again. And maybe they make some noise in the playoffs, but to me, this is more of a stopgap. And hey, we want to continue. The goal, I'm sure, is 12 wins realistically, but I just don't think that's a realistic goal. So it allows them to stay competitive, which to me is the Steelers' goal, while maybe finding the quarterback for next year. I'm not sure if they're thinking that far ahead.
I don't think they are. I think they're focused on this season because I really do think because of how good Rodgers is, he still has the talent. It's just whether or not he's bought in. Age is one thing, but there's flashes. I've seen flashes last year where he just looked amazing, and obviously he would look horrible during other parts. If he's completely bought in and works with the Steelers and Arthur Smith and Mike Tomlin to make this team better, I could see this team being a contender. But again, how likely that is, I don't think it's all that likely. But I could see that being a best case scenario, and I think that's why I think the Steelers agree with me that they can see the vision where it's 12 wins. Now, they may not think it's possible, but the fact that they may not think it's probable, but the fact that they think it's possible is why they went for it. They're kind of shooting high, in my opinion, while in reality, a probably 9 or 10 win season's the reality. A 11 or 12 win season, I do think it's in the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I believe, and you of course believe that's a possibility. I believe that's why they made the move, because they think it's a possibility, maybe even better. I'm just saying I feel I'm more skeptical of Rodgers and just kind of he does have moments. It's just I think he needs to be in a well-built offense, and I don't see him acknowledging that need for an offense. And just kind of he can't do it all by himself. So that's kind of where I feel it's not realistic. So that's where the offense could crumble. But we will have to see. I am very interested in what happens and if Tomlin can keep that above 500 or more or better record. So we'll keep you updated on that. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. We appreciate you listening to Outsiders Opinions.